watch a special called The Levees Broke that Spike Lee did. Go watch a bunch of shit to understand this is not just some, yo, Katrina happened. Nigga said, nah, nigga, my city is gone, nigga. You know what I'm saying? So your request was not uncalled for, even though you got an advance. It was a catastrophic situation that happened. And
that's Cam, big brother. That's how I felt about it. I was like, say, bro, you just gave me an advance, but this situation, I just not to soften it up. But I don't think he understood the detrimental situation of Katrina at the moment. You dig? Because when I told him to help me, he basically told me to get on the road. He was like, you better get on the road. Like, get on the road? I ain't got no home to go to.
Yeah. Where am I going?
I was outside the wall, so I'm telling you, it's not easy to be where I'm at now. But
you got past the moat with the alligators.
Yes, man, and that's not easy. Been through it all in this game, from being blackballed, talked about, said I couldn't rap, said I couldn't do this and shit like that. And I never let nothing discourage me because I know what I wanted to do and where I needed to go. Plus, I knew that there was nowhere else in this world that I could figure out how to make a dollar like this game.
Said that, you know, there's nothing that this shit could show me that I ain't seen a million times, man. And sometimes you just gotta run through it, man. Fuck what people say. Embrace failure. And 2, 3, 4 losses that I had, that shit gave me the fire to come back and learned a lot about me. You have to learn from your failures and stay consistent. That's it. When people know what know to look for you because you're constantly doing it, that's when you win. And that's what I'm all about, man.
I want to rent it. And I said, okay, fine. Right? He's been saying this for since October. And he keeps trying to build it, but he won't sign the lease. He's like, I don't like these terms. I want 6 months of build out. And ridiculous bullshit. We also have a partnership agreement where half of what he's building now, his media, belongs to us. But he won't tell us how much he's making and doing all these things. So half of the content he's creating, if you want to buy that too, I'll sell you half the company. He's not a business. He's insane. To me, it's worth very little to nothing. But if it works out for you, I just throw that in as a sweetener. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is he signed a lease with me. Right now he owes, I'm going to say in a short way, at least $80,000, if not $180,000. The monthly rent on the old lease.
I'm going to say this, man. Beefing with 50 is good business. Numbers is up, podcast is up, engagement is up. Beefing with 50, I wish I would have known this a long time ago. We could go a couple more rounds.
No way!
100%. But he said he wanted to buy half the podcast. Now I'm saying if you want to buy half the podcast, I'm the person you need to see about that. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy you got to see about that.
I mean, do you think he was being facetious or what?
He say he don't cap. He say he don't cap. So I should be receiving a phone call, right? Saying, yo, what's up with this podcast? Beefing with 50, beefing with Curtis, it's good business.
Oh my goodness.
we not making our podcast not going, we don't talk about people. We take things and internalize it. But at the same time, I'm not trying to walk nothing down. Like if it's smoke, it's smoke.
All right, man.
If you shooting and you saying they and these guys and you got a picture and I'm in the picture, I'm shooting back. And it's with whoever. Okay. It's with whoever, whenever, however.
We know.
Whatever.
We know.
Capo. Yeah. We out here squatting.
The moment 50 Cent publicly said he'd buy the Jim Jones and Maino podcast, the energy shifted immediately. This wasn't a joke, it wasn't sarcasm, and it definitely wasn't one of his quick throwaway insults. It landed like a straight power flex, a loud reminder of money, leverage, and control. And that's exactly why it hit so hard. When Cam'ron reacted, it added a whole new layer. Because Cam isn't just some commentator chiming in. He's tied to Dipset history, personally connected to Jim Jones, and plugged into the long memory of how alliances in this culture form, fracture, and fall apart. That's when this stopped being a simple back and forth and started touching real nerves. Suddenly, it turned into a serious conversation about respect, pride, ownership, and how far public beef should go once money enters the chat. 50 Cent has always known how to turn words into pressure. By saying he'd buy the podcast, he wasn't just talking about owning a show. He was talking about owning the conversation, the platform, and the narrative itself. In hip-hop, where an independence is worn like a badge of honor, that kind of statement hits different. It sends a clear message. No matter how much sweat and time you put into something, it can still be bought, taken, or controlled if the price is high enough. That's why the reaction was so loud, and why Cam's response mattered so much. Cameron didn't react out of shock. He reacted from experience. He's been around long enough to know when something is said for laughs and when it's meant to test boundaries. His tone sounded like someone who fully understands how 50 operates and how his moves usually play out. Cam didn't rush into insults or wild shots. Instead, he came back with disbelief, humor, and a quiet warning. That balance made it clear he knew this wasn't just entertainment or clickbait. It was a signal, plain and simple. When someone like 50 makes a statement like that, it forces everyone involved to start thinking about what comes next. Jim Jones and Maino built their podcast as a space where they could speak freely, talk culture, and share opinions without filters, whether people agree with them or not. That platform represents their voices and their control. Even if 50 never planned to actually buy it, the comment alone challenged that independence. And in hip-hop, that's taken as disrespect. Respect isn't about what you say, it's about letting people stand on what they built. Cameron also has real history with 50 that goes back years. There's been tension, distance, and long stretches of silence. That history made Cam's reaction hit harder because he wasn't reacting like a fan or an outsider. He spoke as someone who knows the personalities involved and understands how fast situations can spiral. His response suggested he saw the comment as an unnecessary escalation, even if he understood exactly why 50 made it. This situation also highlights how social media has reshaped conflict in hip-hop. Disagreements used to stay behind closed doors or come out through music. Now they unfold in real time through interviews, clips, and comments. And 50 Cent has mastered this space. He knows how to keep himself dead center in the conversation. Jim Jones and Maino stepped into that arena by speaking on him, whether they meant to or not. And once that happens, a response is guaranteed. The problem is, 50 never responds lightly. Cam's reaction showed he understood that dynamic perfectly. He didn't treat this like harmless talk. Once money and ownership get mentioned, the energy changes fast. At that point, it stops being about opinions and becomes a status move. In hip-hop, saying, "I can buy what you built," is seen as one of the highest levels of disrespect. It doesn't just question success, it questions value. That's why the comment struck such a nerve. Some people believe 50's move was necessary and even expected. They argue that Jim Jones and Maino spoke on him first, criticized his actions, and questioned his motives. From that angle, 50 responding with force lines up perfectly with who he's always been. He's never been the type to stay quiet when his name comes up. To them, it wasn't bullying. It was a reminder that words come with consequences. Cameron didn't fully land on either side, and that's what made his response so interesting. He didn't praise 50, but he didn't shut him down either. Instead, he pointed out how wild the statement was and how instantly it changed the temperature. His response felt thoughtful, not reactive, like he was looking at the bigger picture, the room, the history, and the fallout all at once. This moment also reopened old conversations about Dipset loyalty and long-standing cracks within the crew. Anytime Jim Jones is involved in public conflict, those old stories resurface. Cam reacting pulled all of that history back to the surface and reminded people that nothing in hip-hop exists in isolation. Every comment is tied to years of shared moments, arguments, and unresolved feelings. The idea of buying someone's podcast hit especially hard because podcasts have become one of the last places artists truly control their voice. Labels and contracts have always limited expression, but podcasts feel different. They're personal, raw, and owned. When that space feels threatened, it feels like an attack on identity itself. Cam clearly picked up on that, and that's why his reaction carried weight. There's also the question of whether 50 ever planned to buy the podcast at all. Some see it as pure talk, a flex designed to dominate the moment. Others believe that even saying it crossed a line. In hip-hop, intention matters less than impact, and the impact here was obvious. It shifted the narrative immediately and forced everyone to react. Cam's response acted like a pause button. It slowed things down just enough for people to think instead of jumping straight into chaos. It added context and perspective, reminding viewers this isn't just internet drama. These are real people with real history, real pride, and long memories. The tension between 50 Cent, Jim Jones, and Maino shows how quickly things escalate when ego, money, and public platforms collide. What started as commentary turned into power statements. Cam stepping in didn't end the conflict, but it reframed it. For Jim Jones, the comment challenged his image as a boss and builder. For Maino, it questioned his role and relevance. And for 50, it reinforced exactly who he's always been, someone who never backs down and isn't afraid to use money as leverage. Cam highlighted all of that without ever saying it outright. He let the moment speak for itself, and that made it hit even harder. It also raised bigger questions about unity in hip-hop. Instead of conversations leading to understanding, they often turn into dominance checks. And Cam's reaction hinted at real fatigue with that cycle, even though he understands it completely. At the end of the day, this is about way more than a podcast. It's about pride, power, and where people draw the line when they feel challenged. Some think 50 crossed a line. Others think he simply set a boundary. Cam's response showed how someone close to the situation can see both sides at once. Now it's on the audience. Was 50 wrong for saying he'd buy the podcast? Or was that just his way of responding to criticism? Was Cam right to step in, or should he have stayed out of it? There aren't easy answers. What's clear is this moment will be remembered, not for insults, but for what it represented. Ownership versus voice, money versus pride, silence versus response. Cameron's reaction captured that tension and made it impossible to brush off. As the conversation continues, it's less about picking sides and more about understanding what it means. This is how hip-hop debates move now, public, loud, and layered. And this moment, because of Cam stepping in, became something bigger than noise. It became something worth discussing, dissecting, and remembering. Attention is the real currency right now, and 50 Cent knows exactly how to spend it. He's built a reputation where people expect him to swing hard and do it loudly. So when 50 says something, it already carries weight before anyone even reacts. That's why when he talks about buying a platform, nobody hears it as a throwaway line. They hear it through the lens of everything he's done up to this point. And that's exactly why this moment landed the way it did. People filtered it through years of past behavior, power moves, and public battles. Cameron caught that immediately, which is why his response felt calm instead of stunned. He understood the meaning behind the words before the internet even finished breaking it down. Reputation works the same way for Jim Jones and Maino. Both have spent years positioning themselves as respected voices, not just artists clinging to old highlights. Their podcast plays a huge role in that image. It represents growth, relevance, and control over their own narrative. So a comment like 50's threatens that image even if nothing ever comes from it. Cam's reaction showed he knew just how fragile reputation becomes once it's challenged publicly. One comment can shake years of work. This moment also proves that personal history never really disappears. Dipset history, old tensions, and long-running rivalries sit just below the surface until something like this pulls them right back up. Cameron's reaction carried all of that without him needing to spell it out. That's something only someone who actually lived it could pull off. There's also a bigger lesson here about silence versus response. Silence often gets labeled as weakness, but Cam showed that a measured response can hit harder than a loud one. He said just enough to frame the situation without letting it spiral. That decision probably stopped things from getting way uglier than they already were. Instead of throwing fuel on the fire, he set boundaries with words. The audience plays a major role in moments like this too. Fans amplify tension, choose sides, and push narratives forward. Some people want chaos, others want clarity, and Cam's response gave the clarity crowd something solid to hold on to. It slowed the rush toward extremes and reminded people that context still matters. Not every comment has to turn into an all-out war when someone steps back and reframes it. Another key factor is how business talk changes the emotional temperature of conflict. Insults fade, jokes get brushed off, but once money enters the conversation, everything gets serious. Buying something means control, control means power, and power changes relationships. Cam recognized that shift immediately, which is why he treated the comment differently than a normal diss. This also highlights how artists today have to protect more than just their image. They're guarding platforms, partnerships, and long-term plans. Jim Jones and Maino weren't just defending pride, they were protecting a business they built. Cam's reaction showed respect for that reality and made it clear he understood what was really at stake. At the same time, 50's approach reflects how he sees power operating. In his mind, dominance prevents challenges. Soft responses invite more talk. Hard responses shut things down. Whether people agree or not, that mindset has shaped his entire career. Cam didn't reject that logic outright, but he didn't co-sign it either. He acknowledged it without fully endorsing it, and that balance is what made his response stand out. This situation also shows how fast entertainment can turn into real pressure. What starts as content can quickly become personal stress. Public scrutiny, non-stop reactions, and constant judgment make every word heavier. Cam reacting with control showed he understands that pressure. As the conversation continues, people will keep coming back to this moment because it raises bigger questions. Who controls the space? Who owns the conversation? How should power be used? Those questions go beyond the individuals involved and hit the culture as a whole. Power is measured differently now than it was years ago. It used to be about hit records, street reputation, or label leverage. Today, power also comes from platforms, audiences, and the ability to shape online conversation. When 50 mentioned buying the podcast, he tapped straight into that modern form of power. He reminded everyone that visibility and reach can be owned just like catalogs and companies. Cam's reaction showed he understood that shift, which is why he didn't dismiss the comment as empty talk. Cam has always valued ownership and control. Throughout his career, he's been vocal about independence and artists protecting what they build. That history adds another layer to why his reaction mattered. He wasn't responding just as Jim Jones's friend or 50's rival. He was responding as someone who knows what it takes to build something from scratch and how threatening it feels when someone publicly suggests they can take it. There's also a generational element here. 50 Cent comes from an era where public dominance was survival. You couldn't look weak, hesitant, or unsure. Every response had to be sharp and decisive. Jim Jones and Maino operate in a slightly different lane now, where conversation and platforms are part of the brand. That clash of eras is exactly why this moment hit the way it did. Cam stood right in the middle, responding in a way that showed he understood both worlds. His response reflected old-school survival instincts and today's platform-driven mindset at the same time. Fans wasted no time picking sides. Some praised 50, calling it a boss move. Others felt it crossed a line, especially towards people who helped build the culture. Cam's response opened space for a middle ground. It let people acknowledge the power of the comment without pretending it was harmless. That balance mattered more than loud cheering or instant outrage. The restraint Cam showed is rare in moments like this. He didn't escalate with threats or insults. He didn't add unnecessary chaos. He let the weight of 50's words speak for themselves. That approach made his response more effective because it kept the focus where it belonged, and that's why it landed so clean. Not every response has to be louder than the last. In a culture where escalation gets rewarded with clicks, Cam choosing calm stood out. It showed maturity, awareness, and control, and it shifted how a lot of people viewed the situation around Jim Jones. This is also about legacy. Jim Jones has spent years reshaping his image, moving from artist to executive to media voice. A comment like 50's challenges that progress publicly, even if nothing ever comes from it. The statement alone forces Jim to defend his position, and Cam's response showed support without turning it into a full-blown war. And Maino's role matters too. Known for speaking honestly and saying what others won't, that transparency earns respect, but it also invites strong reactions.